I knew you was gonna be a boy. Anyway, I wanted to be somebody you could look up to. So, I guess that's why I went to Vietnam. Don't ever go in the Army, Trey. Black man ain't got no place in the Army. I knew you was gonna be a boy. Anyway, I wanted to be somebody you could look up to. So, I guess that's why I went to Vietnam. Don't ever go in the Army, Trey. Black man ain't got no place in the Army.
Shalom. All praise to the Most High Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutation, you brothers, and hope for that question is word of truth and sincerity. Alright, this video here is Jake, you have no place in the military. Alright. So you see this new thing that came out to where they gotta get them jabs and the pokes for the military. This article says here the poke will be required for military under a new plan. Alright, and it says members of the U.S. military will be required to have that poke beginning September 15th under a plan announced by the Pentagon Monday and endorsed by President Joe Biden. That deadline could be pushed up if they receive the FDA approval for infection rates or if infection rates continue to rise. All right. I will seek the president's approval to make the pokes mandatory no later than mid-September or immediately upon licensure by the FDA, whichever comes first. So they saying either way it goes, they gonna make it mandatory for them, no matter what. All right. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says in the memo to troops, warning them to prepare for the requirement. This is why I say, Jake, you do not need to be in the military. That military is not a place for you. Alright. That's why I put in that open video where Furious Styles said on Boys in the Hood, he was teaching his son at a young age, don't go into the army. Black man ain't got no place in the army. So I'm back. Yeah. Jake, you have no place in the military. That is not your place. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be fighting or tasked with attempting to fight Yahushua and the angels. And that's going to be a losing battle. Alright. He added that if infection rates rise and potentially affect military readiness, I will not hesitate to act sooner or recommend a different course to the president if I feel the need to do so. To defend this nation, we need a healthy and ready force. Alright. Austin's plan provides time for the FDA to give final approval to the jab, which is expected early next month. Without that formal approval, Austin will need a waiver from Biden to make the potion mandatory. Biden has made it clear he supports that. In a statement Monday, Biden said he strongly supports Austin's message to the force today on the Department of Defense's plan to add Vanessa to the list of required Vanessas for our service members not later than mid-September. So you see that? If not earlier, it's going to be mid-September or September 15th. That's the date that they're putting out there, that is going to be required or mandatory for armed forces, no matter what branch you in. All right? Take heed to this. This thing getting serious, all right? Biden said the country is still on a wartime footing and being validated will enable our service members to stay healthy, to better protect their families, and to ensure that our force is ready to operate anywhere in the world. All right, this that B system. They want to continue and forward that B system, and they need healthy, as they say, healthy individuals. Austin's memo to the force went out Monday, which is today. His decision comes a bit more than a week after Biden told defense officials to develop a plan requiring troops to get the Pokey Bear as part of a broader campaign to increase valuations in the federal workforce. It reflects similar decisions by governments and companies around the world as nations struggle with the highly contagious variant that has sent new cases, hospitalizations, and deaths surging to heights not seen. I think that should be not seen since the peaks last winter. Austin said in his memo, says that military services will have the next few weeks to prepare, determine how many validations they need, and how this mandate will be implemented. So they still figuring the stuff out, but rest assured, they gonna do it. The additional time, however, also is a nod to the bitter political divisiveness over the Pokey Bear, and the knowledge that making it mandatory will likely trigger opposition from Pokey Bear opponents across the state and federal governments, Congress, and the American population. That's why they dragging their feet and being hesitant, because they trying to do gradualism, but the Lord really putting the spirit on them to come down with that great wrath, because they know they got a short time. He putting the spirit on them to really, really go forward with it. That's why they getting real sloppy with the stuff now. Troops often live and work closely together in barracks and on ships, increasing the risk of rapid spreading, and any large outbreak of the Valerie in the military could affect America's ability to defend itself in a national security crisis. You see that? That'll be something else too. All right. The decision will add the Pokey Bear to the list of other inoculations that service members are already required to get. Because you know, when you go in, you're already getting jabbed up with every potion and elixir they got. Depending on their location around the world, service members can get as many as 17 different Pokey Bears. They want to poke you 17 different times with 17 different elixirs. You see that? Austin's memo also said that in the meantime, the Pentagon will comply with Biden's order for additional restrictions on any federal personnel who have not been validated. Those restrictions will include wearing masks, social distance, and travel limits. So it said additional restrictions. So you're going to get the Pokey Bear, and you still going to wear a mask and social distance. According to the Pentagon, more than 1 million troops are fully poked, and another 237,000 have received one Pokey Bear. But the military services vary widely in their validation rates. The Navy said that more than 74% of all active duty and reserve sailors have been validated with at least one poke. The Air Force, meanwhile, said that more than 65% of its active duty and 60% of reserve forces are at least partially Windows 19. And the number for the Army, by far the largest service, appears to be closer to 50%. So they got quite a few of them already, but they want to go ahead. They keep throwing out that 70% number, but they don't want that. They want 100%. You gotta remember, this is the devil that we're talking about. They gonna place that bar, and then once you get to a certain part, they're gonna move the bar. You get there, they're gonna move the bar a little further. Get there, they're gonna move the bar a little further. So ultimately, they want 100%. That's ultimately what they want. This is why you can never trust your enemy, and they speak sweetly with their lips, but they're thinking how to throw you into a pit. All right. Military officials have said the pace of validations has been growing across the force, with some units, such as sailors, deploying on a warship, seeing nearly 100% of their members get that Windows 19. but the totals drop off dramatically, including among the National Guard and Reserve, who are much more difficult to track. Some un-Windows 19 service members have suggested they get the poke once it's required, but others are flatly opposed. Military officials have said that once the validation is mandated, a refusal could constitute failure to obey an order and may be punishable under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Army guidance, for example, includes counseling members to ensure they understand the purpose of the Windows 19 and the threat the disease poses. The Army also notes that if a soldier fails to comply with a lawful order to receive a mandatory Valerie and does not have an approved exemption, a commander may take appropriate disciplinary action. Military service officials have said they don't collect data on the number of troops who have refused other mandated Vanessas, such as anthrax, hepatitis, chickenpox, or flu shots over the past decade or more, and they weren't able to provide details on the punishment any service members received as a result of the refusal. Officials, but see, although they refused for those, this one here, that Windows 19, they're not trying to get that operating system installed. Alright? Because it's a brand new operating system now. And you know, with them new operating systems, they fail at sometimes. That's why they ain't trying to get that installed in their system. Officials said they believe the number of troops refusing other mandated Vanessas is small, and the discipline could vary. Also, service members can seek an exemption from any Vanessa, either temporary or permanent, for a variety of reasons, including health issues or religious beliefs. Regulations involving the other mandatory Vanessas say, for example, that anyone who had a severe or adverse reaction to Vanessa can be exempt, and those who are pregnant or have other conditions can postpone their poke. Some have argued that those who have already had the thing and have antibodies are immune and thus should not have to get the poke. It's not clear how the military will act on those type of assertions. According to defense officials, some senior military leaders have expressed support for making a validation mandatory, believing it will help keep the force healthy. Military commanders have also struggled to separate un-Vanessa recruits from un-Vanessa recruits. Salaki have struggled to separate poke recruits from un-Vanessa recruits during early portions of basic training across the services in order to prevent infections. So for some, a mandate could make training and housing less complicated. Alright. It says Navy officials said last week that there has been only one case of the Windows hospitalization among sailors and Marines who are fully Pokebear. In comparison, the Navy said there have been more than 123 hospitalizations. In a similarly sized group, the unvalidated sailors and Marines, it said fewer than 3% of its immunized troops have tested positive for Vanessa. The other military services did not provide similar data. Alright, so pretty much they coming down mid-September. They're going with that Pokebear. They trying to get up in your arms and install that Windows 19 on your operating system. Alright, but you don't want to be a part of that. This is why I say, Jake, you have no place in the Army. You have no place in the military. No place in the Navy, Air Force, National Guard, Marines, whatever you in, that's not your place. Alright, so let's get a couple scripts on that. Let's see, it's going to be Revelation chapter 19. Yep. Verse 11. Revelation 19 and 11. It says, "And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True." And this is talking about Yahushua. "And in righteousness he doth judge and make war." Alright, so Yahushua is coming back for judgment and war. His eyes were as a flame of fire. Okay? He ain't coming back with smiles. He come back with a vengeance. "And on his head were many crowns. And he had the name written that no man knew but he himself." And those many crowns, those are going to be the kings of the earth that are going to be taken down. "And he was clothed with the vesture dipped in blood, and his name was called the Word of the Most High." Yahushua is the Word, according to John chapter 1, St. John chapter 1. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood. That's how much killing he's going to do. It's not a literally saying his garment is going to be dipped in blood, but that's how much killing he's going to be doing. Okay? Verse 14. "And the armies which are in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, and white and clean." That's the angels. They're coming back with Yahushua. Remember, he's coming back with the angels and the host of heaven. Alright? This is why I say, if you're in the military, you're going to be tasked with fighting Yahushua, because you're going to be fighting on the side of Esau Edom and his beast system. You're going to be on the side of the dragon that's going to make war. And you're going to be fighting a losing battle. Here you go right here. Verse 15. "And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, and he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of the almighty power. And he hath on his vesture and on his thigh written, a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords." Okay? You ain't got no chance. It's a losing battle. Alright. The second Ezra chapter, I start at the top. Second Ezra chapter 13, verse 1. "And it came to pass after 7 days I dreamed a dream by night. And lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven." Who is that man? Yahushua. "And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen unto him." Everybody gonna be shitting themselves. Everybody's heart's gonna be melting. Everybody, bro, when you see the presence of Yahushua coming in that great fathership, along with all the hosts of heaven, it's gonna be blocking out the sun, blocking out the stars, and every eye gonna. Oh man, come on now. He coming with a vengeance. He gonna make a grand entrance, something this earth has never seen before. You ain't gonna lie to me and tell me you gonna be alright. You gonna be trembling. Even us who know this truth, or who have an understanding, we gonna be trembling, cause that's gonna be a scary day. And I mean that. "And all things trembled that were seen unto him. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it feeleth the fire." Okay, that's how strong he is. "And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of heaven, to subdue the man that came out of the sea." They coming to fight him. Who do you think that is? The armies of Esau. And not just Esau, the armies of all the other kings of the world, all the other nations. It ain't just Esau, okay? But Esau is going to be taken down out of his powers. All right, he's going to be brought down to hell with the quickness. But if you in that military, you going to be fighting on his side. "But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain, and flew up upon it." All right, that's how great and huge that chariot gonna be. "But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. You would think you thought he saw a mountain. You trying to look and see that huge part of the piece of land that was cut out, but it wasn't. That's how huge it is, man. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. Alright, so they were scared, but letting still, the Lord gonna put the spirit on them to fight and come against Yahushua. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. Alright, so Yahushua not gonna come back with a sword in his sheath, and he gonna be cutting people asunder and doing all kind of spin moves and flips. He ain't doing all that. He ain't even lifting up an instrument more. He just going to take you out with his spirit of his mouth. That's it. But only I had saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests, and they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which were prepared to fight, and burned them up, every one. So you fighting a losing battle if you're in the military. So that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude, nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and the smell of smoke. And when I saw this, I was afraid. And you should be afraid. Alright. So this is just a lesson on going into, Jake, you have no place in the military. Alright. So it's not for you. So Allah Yahweh Shem Al-Shai Bashem Kakodash. I hope you edified. Shalom.
I knew you was gonna be a boy. Anyway, I wanted to be somebody you could look up to. So I guess that's why I went to Vietnam. Don't ever go in the army, Trey. Black man ain't got no place in the army.